we good to go? Okay. Well, thanks for coming, Guillaume. I think we owe you an update on the title, maybe? I think you're now Chief Revenue Officer, is that correct?
That's correct, thank you.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming. And, I know Société Générale Forge is your current role, but can you tell us a little bit more about kind of how you got here and your journey through crypto?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Thanks everyone for being here, thanks for having me. Very quickly about my background, I spent most of my career in traditional finance. Left in 2016 because I was very attracted by blockchain technology and all its potential benefits. Became a founder, wanted to create a marketplace for structured investments that would be managed by smart contracts. So I approached the FCA here in the UK, and we did, as part of the FCA sandbox, the first ever structured product to clear, settle, and be custodied on the public blockchain. That was in late 2017. As you can imagine, the timing was very wrong. Did a lot of cool things, but like very bad timing. After 3 years, I decided to return money to shareholders and return in the corporate world. So I landed at Coinbase, where I stayed there for 3 years as head of institutional sales for EMEA and APAC. Fast forward to a year ago, I found the project at Société Générale Forge to be super attractive. This was like in the RWA space, which is something I touched on like way before. And I thought it was the right time to go back in that space. So I joined, roughly 9 months ago. And here I am now.
Well, I mean, you're kind of the perfect person to be talking about this, having both the, Coinbase, the startup experience, and the really institutional side. So Forge is the digital asset spin-off of Société Générale and has its own mandate. Can you tell us more about kind of how that came about from the bank side and what the group is working on generally?
Yeah, so the bank is, someone said like very old lady, 160 years old. But it's also a bank that is packed with innovation. They've been like very innovative in the derivative space, in the ETF space at some point, and now in the blockchain space. It all started in 2018 with a group of intrapreneurs decided to launch that project. Started as a subsidiary, well, started as like an independent company, and in 2020 became a fully owned subsidiary of the bank. Has been dedicated to tokenizing securities, starting with the first big achievement, which was in 2021, being the lead of the syndicate that helped tokenize the first EIB bond, EIB for European Investment Bank bond, which was 100 million euros. And that was done on Ethereum. Since then, the company has been tokenizing more bonds and also been tokenizing a few structured products. Structured products are investment products that are a combination of bonds and derivatives packaged together into basically a product that can be transferred. And this is the bread and butter of our investment bank. They're like part of the 5 top banks globally who do that. More recently, the company decided, and I say more recently at the beginning of this year, they decided to push the envelope a bit further and tokenize the interesting part, which is tokenizing the investment part. Instead of having a product that is already tokenized on chain and you're buying it with cash, basically you just use a stablecoin or tokenized deposit to buy it and just automate that part of the transaction. So we launched a stablecoin at the beginning of the year, coincides more or less to my timing joining the firm. And now we have trying to push that stablecoin in multiple verticals. So people who were there before like heard everything about stablecoins. But what we're trying to work on is, number one, use this as an instrument for settlement for all the products that we're bringing on chain. Mm-hmm. Use it as a lifecycle management instrument as well for these products. For example, like whenever a bond needs to be paying a coupon, the coupon can be automatically paid to the holders in their wallets. The second vertical is really about payments. So working with corporate treasurers in particular, helping them create like transfer of value 24/7 cross-border very cheaply, very efficiently, and very quickly. The second part of that job, which is still at the beginning, is really working with these treasurers as like what is programmatic money? How do we help you manage your liquidity, especially intraday? So think of like intraday repos, being able to automate all this and making things much more efficient. And finally, the last part, which is where my hat as a DGen is helping a lot, is really getting close to the crypto ecosystem, use the stablecoin as an on and off ramp, but also give a utility to this stablecoin, which is today happening in the DeFi space.
So I think one thing we're excited about at Stellar is, this decade, centuries-old institution actually choosing to launch a product on a public blockchain. How did the bank make that decision?
Let me just say something before that.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention that the stablecoin is MiCA compliant. The MiCA compliance thing came when MiCA entered into force for stablecoin 1st of July. What is important with that is at the moment we decided to become MiCA compliant, the bank also agreed to make the stablecoin fully transferable, which is like a massive achievement on our side. Now your last question was
about public chains.
Public blockchain. So yeah, that goes with, it's on public blockchain, it's fully transferable. Maybe you call this the French flair. I think as a French bank, we were the first big financial institution to use public blockchain. And we've been so far working on public blockchain exclusively. I think it comes with the fact that my boss and his co-founders, and I have the same belief, is that the future of finance is going to happen on blockchain. It's going to happen on open source, public blockchain, and more importantly, in a place that is also composable. It is much better to use an infrastructure that already exists, that other developers help continue to develop, and just build your models on top of that. The second reason why we decided to use public blockchain is more about cost versus benefits. If you were to create your own infrastructure the way JP Morgan has been doing it, it's super costly. We're a systemic bank, but we're a small systemic bank compared to JP, for instance. And we decided it was much better for us to put money into developers and into building our own product than create a full infrastructure ourselves.
Yeah, reinventing the wheel.
Just one caveat. We recognize, and it's super important at this point in time, we recognize that this market is global and will not work without the US. So we're also exploring at potential ways to do stuff on more private or permission blockchains because we need our colleagues in the US to also be involved and to be involved with them, have interoperability, working on projects together. And today, because of the regulatory environment in the US, it's not possible on pure public blockchain.
Yeah. I mean, so we're big proponents of interoperability as well. And you guys have launched initially on Ethereum, and then in the past few weeks, you've been making announcements about launching on subsequent chains. How do you make the decision about where you deploy next?
That's a good question. There are a few stars that need to be aligned. I think the most important one is, I think, basic requirement. You need a blockchain that is going to meet the technical requirements. So significant enough throughput, low enough latency. It has to be cheap enough in terms of gas. That's, I think, the most basic thing. The other thing that we're looking at are people we're working with at the foundation. How easy it is to work with you guys. It's been a pleasure. Not that we have signed anything. We're evaluating right now joining the ecosystem.
We're working on it.
But that's an important point. And what is also very important is to see how the foundation is helping the ecosystem grow. So it's bringing more builders, bringing more developers, and see activity going on in the chain. Last point is really about DeFi as well. And I have the personal belief that DeFi is the place where we're going to grow a lot and where there's going to be convergence between traditional finance and crypto. Mm-hmm. And it's important for us to see a growing ecosystem using DeFi with certain blocks.
I mean, you're segueing very nicely into my last question, which is, there's a lot of content this week at Meridian about building out DeFi on Stellar. Why do you think DeFi is particularly important for institutions as well? And how can you how are you working to bridge that gap?
Well, first of all, if there are any builders in DeFi on Stellar, please come talk to me. I'd love to speak more. Now, why I think DeFi is important? As I said, I've been saying this for years. I think the convergence between traditional finance and the crypto world with all the DGens and crypto bros is going to happen in the DeFi space. I think on our side as SG4, we've been building many of these blocks. The first one is like you need to have tokenized securities. The second one is you need to have a stable coin. And where the convergence is happening is using DeFi rails to do collateralized lending in a fully automated way. I think this is where blockchain has a real utility. Stablecoin obviously like has a utility on its own for transfer payments and so on. But to be honest, we don't see like a lot happening, and this doesn't bring like a lot of institutional investors there. Where DeFi and TradFi like converge is where like a lot of big institutions start using some assets that are not necessarily used as collateral in TradFi, start posting this as collateral and be able to borrow in an automated fashion. So it's not going to happen like necessarily on public blockchain, or at least it's going to start happening in permission DeFi. Yeah. But I see a place where it's like going to grow much more than that.
Well, you heard it here. Send DeFi projects to the DGen in disguise here. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I think we do have a minute or two left if we have any questions from the audience. But I want to make sure I'm respecting the timekeepers.